So I have another video I'm working on, which is kind of part of this perfection series that I've been putting up on the channel. But then this dropped and I feel like I have to talk about it. So let's talk about Netflix's live action adaptation of One Piece. Netflix's One Piece is the live action adaptation of One Piece by Oda Eiichiro, and if you're not familiar with One Piece, it follows the story of Monkey D. Luffy, who wants to be king of the pirates and is in search of the One Piece, the treasure left behind by the previous king of the pirates, Gold Roger. Now, this live action adaptation adapts the first few arcs of One Piece, which is from Romance Dawn up until the Arlong Park arc. And knowing Netflix's track record with live action adaptation, there was a lot of trepidation when it came to this, especially when it comes to One Piece. Now, if you know anything about One Piece, you know that it is incredibly difficult to adapt because even by anime and manga standards, One Piece is incredibly zany and incredibly cartoony. I want to give credit to the showrunners and the people who created the show, who directed the show, who produced the show, because I feel like there's been a lot of love put into this production. I feel like the people adapting this material for live action are truly fans of the show, because I was watching a video about all this Easter eggs that they've included in this live action series, and I'm just blown away because there's just so much things that you wouldn't notice. Even as a fan of One Piece, you wouldn't, unless you're a diehard fan, you wouldn't notice. And that's just major props to them for, putting their heart and soul into this series. Now, I mentioned it before, live action adaptation for anime can be incredibly tricky. We know what happened with Cowboy Bebop. It was not the best received. A lot of people didn't like it. And when you hear that they're going to adapt One Piece, which is an incredibly beloved series, there was a lot of cautiousness, and a lot of people were afraid of what was going to come from that. But as I mentioned, I feel like the people who adapted this series are massive fans of the source material, and they pay due respect to what they're adapting. It also helps that they managed to get Oda Eiichiro on board to sort of consult and help with the production of the series. But one thing that I feel works in favor for them, which I thought would be a big hindrance, actually, is just the nature of One Piece itself. As I mentioned again earlier, is One Piece is incredibly zany and incredibly cartoony, even by anime standards, by manga standards. And if you are caught up to the latest chapters of the manga, then it just gets incredibly much more so cartoony. And while that looked like it was going to be a very big detriment towards any sort of live action adaptation, I would say that in this case it kind of helped, because while Cowboy Bebop was trying to go for a sort of realistic vibe to sort of match the original Cowboy Bebop, this live action adaptation of One Piece doesn't really need to do that. Because of the zany nature of One Piece itself, it allows a bit more freedom for the producers to adapt the source material. Now, I say the creators have a lot of love and respect for the source material because they built real sets. They built real sets, a real ship set for the Going Merry, a real ship set for Baratie, a real ship set for Cocoa Village. And, Netflix invested a lot of money into this series, and the money is put to good use. The show is given a lot of love. The set design, the production design, it's amazing. It's something we don't see, and I feel it's why a lot of other series, especially what's happening with Marvel these days, is falling flat because it feels lifeless. One Piece is a fun, uplifting story, and it feels like the producers, the showrunners, the directors, they understood the assignment, and having real sets really helps with that, and real animatronics for the Denden Mushi as well. It really helps, and it shows that they care about the source material they're adapting. Now, a big qualm a lot of people will have and still have and are having is, to do with the CGI and how, it's a Netflix budget CGI. We're not expecting, Avatar 2 levels of CGI. But again, this is where I say the sort of zany nature of One Piece helps with the show, because they're allowed to pull off just incredibly weird animation and incredibly weird CGI, and there are places where it's going to look a bit choppy, where it's not going to look the very best, but you kind of give that a pass for me just based on what One Piece is. But as I mentioned, they put a lot, even with the CGI, they do put a lot of care, as much care as they can into it. My biggest concern with production going forward is the arcs they are about to adapt in the future, which will involve another cast member of the Straw Hat Pirates, which is Tony Chopper, and how they're going to do that, because we see with the Denden Mushi that it is animatronic, and there is also CGI elements, but if they're going to have a fully CGI Chopper, it might be a little rough. Maybe they will get a little person in a costume, but who knows what they're going to do. And even though this first season was really successful, I would say, especially for an anime adaptation, there is a lot of worry going forward. I also want to give a shout out to the cast and the casting director for this anime, because first of all, Inaki Godoy as Monkey D. Luffy is perfect casting. He brings the energy that is so reminiscent of Luffy. He feels like Luffy. When Netflix was doing the promo for this show, a lot of it was focused on the cast, and there was one where Oda Eiichiro himself came out and said Inaki is the perfect Luffy, and I know that's just promotional material, and he's probably just saying that to get people interested, so I didn't buy into that so much. But when I watched the show, and what kept me watching the show is mostly Inaki's performance, because revisiting One Piece from the beginning in live action is a big nostalgia trip. But if the casting and the acting was not right, it would be crap. It would be shit. But Inaki is so able to embody the spirit of Luffy that I think he is probably one of two, for me, perfect castings or perfect performances as well in this series. I would also give props to the rest of the actors who played the Straw Hat crew. Makanyu was good as Zoro, but I wasn't the best for me, but not bad. I think as we go on further into One Piece, I think he'll win me over. Emily Rudd is a fantastic Nami, but it's not the other performance that I want to talk about, because that the other performances for me is just a bit more special. But Emily Rudd does a great job as Nami, and is incredibly believable as her, and playing through her backstory. Part of this adaptation is giving us a look into the backstories of the Straw Hat crew while the episodes are running. And if you've read the manga, if you watch the anime, their backstories, and I feel like this show adapted their stories well, and the actors playing the characters are really able to bring that to their performance. Taz Kyler as Sanji didn't really get much room to shine. He comes in pretty late because he comes in at Bharati, and then immediately after that we're on to Arlong Park, so he doesn't really get a good chance to sort of mesh with the crew. But once again, going forward, I think he will do well, and he will have plenty of fans himself. Jacob Romero Gibson also brings Usopp as Usopp. Usopp is a character that can annoy you. Like Usopp at the beginning of One Piece, annoyed me. Where he is now, where the manga is like he's God Usopp. He's a favorite, a fan favorite, but at the start of One Piece, even in the manga, he was an annoying character. But Jacob Romero Gibson tones him down a little bit, but he just keeps his silliness in there. And hopefully we get to see him do more, because in this season, he really doesn't have much to do, and it's quite a testament to the story of Usopp, because whereas you have Luffy, who's incredibly powerful, Zoro, who's incredibly strong, Sanji, who's incredibly strong, and then Nami, who's incredibly brilliant, Usopp is kind of your everyday guy. And yeah, I don't know if his character in this live action annoyed people who've never watched One Piece or read One Piece, but I feel like this performance kind of tones it down. But now I do want to talk about the performance that besides Inaki Goroy as Luffy that really stuck out to me was Jeff Ward as Buggy the Clown. I mean, from the first look of Buggy that you get in the trailer, it's incredibly terrifying. It's nightmare fuel. But now when you watch the series, and it's the same when he is introduced, it's the same scene you see in the trailer, that sort of nightmare fuel Buggy. But then when you get to the actual Buggy arc, all those who have read One Piece or watched One Piece know that Buggy kind of becomes a joke character almost. He becomes comedic relief, and I think that Jeff Ward just captures it perfectly. There's the initial menace of this guy is threatening. He has a crew, and then like Luffy, he has special powers, the devil fruit powers. But just like his counterpart in the manga and anime, he becomes sort of a running joke. And I think Jeff Ward is just, his comedic timing, his performance that he delivers is just able to capture that so perfectly for me. So yeah, all in all, this may be the best, if not one of the best live action anime adaptations. We had Alita Battle Angel a few years ago, but like that is with a massive director attached, so you're expecting quality. And here you have directors who are not so famous, you have actors who are not so famous, and to have such a great adaptation, there, like I mentioned, there is some wonky CG, but it really, if you can, you don't even have to suspend your disbelief. It's a fantastical world. So you're already in a fantastical world, so the iffy CG doesn't really get to you. And the set design, production design, the love they've shown for this is what I truly admire about this series. And they're able to showcase a series that is based off very silly source material, but they're able to capture the silliness and the heart of the source material itself. And I am so glad that of all the series to break the sort of live action adaptation curse, to be sort of successful, actually very well reviewed, kind of loved by One Piece fans and enjoyed by people who are new to this. The fact they're able to do that, and the fact that it is One Piece that does that, is just sublime. It's incredible. It makes me happy that that's happened, and I can't wait for season 2 of Netflix's One Piece. For now, I'd give Netflix's One Piece a 7 out of 10. A very good adaptation of challenging source material, and I can't wait to see more. So if you've seen Netflix's live action adaptation of One Piece, please tell me what you think in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.